Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discourse episode 11. Today, we're going to be talking about Tim Burton's and Henry Selick's The Nightmare Before Christmas. Henry Selick gets no goddamn credit for this movie. If you ask some schmuck on the street who directed The Nightmare Before Christmas, everyone says Tim Burton. It's like, it's not true. He produced it. He came up with the concept of it, but Henry Selick was the man who directed this film. So I want to give that guy the credit that he absolutely deserves because he hardly gets any for that film. But I was actually excited to talk about this because we are currently in the holiday season, the Christmas season, in the smack dab in the middle of December, about a week away before we're finally on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. And I thought it was so appropriate that we do a Christmas film. So I'm glad that you guys picked this one. And again, we'll kind of go into our general thoughts like we usually do about this movie, our favorite characters, favorite scenes, our favorite songs. And those that are listening, I hope you also go into detail as well in the comments. But I have to admit, I don't really remember the first time I saw this film. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember the day I saw The Dark Knight, or I remember when I went to the theater as a child and saw The Lion King and was so sad when Mufasa died and all that. But I don't. For whatever reason, I just don't remember when I first saw The Nightmare Before Christmas. It must have been. It had to have been on I didn't see it in the theater, despite this movie coming out in '94. And I think I might have first seen it on television as a young child, like on ABC Family, where they always have those, they either play it during Halloween or they play it during Christmas because it both exists as either a Halloween film or a Christmas film. It's unique in that way. And so it's always kind of been a part of my childhood and into adult life. And I've always really loved the movie. I've always had an appreciation for stop motion animation. I mean, even stuff like Wallace and Gromit, like the early days, like those, and like those little claymation figurines and things. And so I always like seeing that art style, that animation style. And so I've always been engendered towards Nightmare Before Christmas. Maybe not as obsessed as some fans are with this movie, which to each their own, of course. But this is definitely. This is firmly still, it has its place in the pop culture zeitgeist, has grown even bigger than when I'm sure Tim Burton, Henry Selick, or even Disney originally thought. Funny enough, Disney had little confidence in this movie when it originally came out. That's why they put it under Touchstone when it was released instead of the whole Disney logo. But I've loved this movie for its voice work and for its animation and for its brilliant songs. I mean, everything from Jack LaMente's to Oogie Boogie's number later on in the film. It's just one of those classics that I'll put, either I'll sit down, I'll watch it, I'll have it play in the background, or even playing some of the music, humming along to it, or even singing some of the lyrics if I can remember them, when I can remember them. But it's a film that I've always had an appreciation for. And so I want to go ahead, give each person a moment to talk about, their general thoughts, how they originally saw it, and if they can remember, because I certainly can't. And what the general thoughts are on the film, and then we'll get into more specific detail and open up for everybody. But we'll start with, we start at the top of Deadpool, and we end it with Vanny. Let's go ahead and go with Vanny this time. Vanispheres. Your general thoughts. How did you first see The Nightmare Before Christmas, and your general thoughts on the movie since then?
Yeah. So being the resident old guy, I remember seeing it in the theaters at I think it was actually a dollar theater in San Antonio. And I would ask my mom, please, I want to go. She took it as it being kind of like a horror film, so she absolutely refused. But then a neighbor was kind enough to let me go with it when he took his son to go with it, and I absolutely loved it. And I think it's one of those films that I don't think it necessarily gets better with age, but it certainly doesn't get worse over time, too. It just stays such a solid film from start to finish. The music is memorable, the little details that you can see in the environment. Jack Skellington, it has become such a meme that he's launched a million Hot Topic stores and Spencer's Gifts. So we were talking before recording. It just creates such an iconic character and world that it's like I can still watch it to this day and just feel like I was like when I was 10 years old and sitting in that movie theater. So nice. Absolutely love it. Nice.
It just has that aesthetic where it just ages well.
Yeah. Claymation is a huge skill, and they knocked it out of the park.
Agreed. Newsy Ducky, about yourself. How? When did you first see this movie, and your general thoughts on the film?
I think I was 13. So it was like 17 years ago. Yeah, it's been a while. Well, the last time I saw it was just today, just to refresh.
Nice.
I I actually I like it. It kind of reminds me of the James and the Giant Peach movie. It's I also love James and the Giant Peach, so that definitely reminds me of that. I actually like all the songs there, especially the one with Sally. And yeah, I mean, it's a fun it's a kids movie, to be honest. So um, I like it. Yeah,
Nice. Very good.
yeah.
Very good. MZ, what about yourself, good sir? How did you originally see this film? What are your general thoughts on it since then?
So the first time I saw it was actually today. So I'd never seen the movie before, and matter of fact, my first like introduction to like any of like the characters, because I think I've seen like the character models, but like actually knowing their names and things like that, I didn't know that until I played Kingdom Hearts 2, because I think you could
Ah,
go into that world in that game. But after watching it, it's one of those things where you always hear something, like you always hear like songs or you hear like dialogue, and you're like, and you just don't know where it came from. And so when I was watching this, like when the movie
mm.
opens, and it says this is Halloween, I thought that was just like a Marilyn Manson song. And so when I heard it, I was like, oh, Marilyn Manson. But I was like, oh, I really like this. And so and also there was more music in it than I thought. I didn't know it was so heavy on music, but I still really enjoyed it. The animation I really liked. Like I like how they have Jack Skellington, and how his during his song, like when he's walking, it almost looks like this like spider like figure
Mm.
going around. But yeah, really. Oh, and I also liked how they're like doing like science to figure out Christmas. And so yeah, overall I really enjoyed it. Probably not as much as most people, but I did really enjoy it.
It's funny you bring up how you were initially exposed to it. Like I wonder if people who hadn't seen the movie, they initially said, oh yeah, it's the shirts I saw on Hot Topic with that guy and the Frankenstein zombie girl and stuff, or Kingdom Hearts, which I know. So it's in Kingdom Hearts 2. That's the Halloween Town level or
M1.
area.
Yeah.
And one. Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder. Yeah. So I wonder if it's if that for a lot of people like our age, like millennials who are big fans of the Kingdom Hearts games, like that's how initially exposed to that movie. So that's pretty unique. I'm glad you brought that up. Kaz, about yourself? How did you first see this film, and your general thoughts on it since then?
To be honest, like I didn't see it in its entirety until this week when I was watching it for this. But
Wow, cool.
I did see clips of it and I heard songs from it as I was growing up. I don't know why, for some reason as a young child I didn't hear of it at first. Probably maybe my parents didn't want me watching a Christmas movie that had Halloween and no Jesus and all. No. But like I always did gravitate towards the creepier stuff like Addams Family or James and the Giant Peach were able to watch.
Mhm.
And this gets right into that. I enjoyed watching it. It is very much a kids movie, but I also liked that because while there are these moments that kind of combine creepiness, there are parts of the movie where like the stakes get higher and it gets genuinely dark, and it actually caught me off guard with how actually scary some of these moments are. And I thought it was a really great movie, and of course the animation blew me away. There's nothing quite like stop motion. I wish there were more of that.
I always appreciate when a stop motion movie is about to come out, because it's because it could be both pleasing and I think disturbing to the eye, because there's something like a little unnatural about it. Whereas like with 2D animation or 3D animation, it's a lot cleaner, right? With stop motion or claymation, there's almost like a little otherworldliness to it, which I always like that. It's like it's always a little kind of like ominous to me. And even though it can be so childlike, it can be a little disturbing. It's funny that you bring up the fact that your parents might not have wanted you to watch this movie, because that was Disney's concern. They thought it was too dark for children, and they were expecting this not to initially do very well. And it's probably made more money than it's since then, since it originally came out in '94. Various re-releases. on either VHS or DVD and Blu-ray, and I'm sure it does very well on cable and streaming services now. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that, a lot of parents were initially kind of like, I don't know about this. It looks a little sketchy, and I get that. And you had all these parent groups, I think, who didn't like Tim Burton because of his, which I get. I mean, we had a penguin who's talking about blowing up kids' erogenous zones. So I was like, I don't want you to see that movie. It's going to be talking about blowing up more kids' erogenous zones. So I can get that. But yeah, looking at it now, it's like, yeah, it's childlike, but it has those dark moments, which I think really sets it apart.
And just to interject, like I know, like I'm hearing people talk about like how this is a kids film. I respectfully, I would actually disagree with that. Just it is like I can understand where there is a child element to it, especially with it being claymation and where it's like it's got singing like songs and stuff like that. But when you look actually at the story of it, I think it actually has a much more mature one than I think. I think a lot of people think about. It's about an artist who's just gotten bored with his work. He's very successful, but he's just bored. And then discover something new, try to make it his own. Like there's a lot of like an allegory for just like burnout and trying to figure out your own way for it too. I think it's just done with just then the guise of the claymation and stuff. But I think it's one of the reasons why it does endure so long, where it does have that mature storytelling for it too, and has something as an adult. And I think folks who maybe do content creation and who are successful at it may kind of feel from time to time like, yeah, but I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. And then it takes something to reinvigorate their passion for what they're doing. And like it kind of expanding from that.
You're right. The whole premise of the movie is about a character going through an existential crisis. He's been doing this for so long, and he's feeling that He's feeling that burnout. And where now he's like, it's just the same old thing, as he says. And he finds this new thing. And it's like, this is great. I love it. He doesn't really understand it, but he's obsessed with it, and he misinterprets it. And because of his excitement, it causes all this destruction, sadly. It's a fantastic allegory for burnout and just an existential crisis, or just being sick of what you do, even if you're good at it.
Right.
So absolutely agree with you. Yeah, and great to bring up. Absolutely great to bring up. Austin, what yourself, good sir? How did you first originally see this movie, and what are your general thoughts on it since then?
I think kind of like Mr. Xavier. I may have saw it. I think I saw James and the Giant Feast first, but I may have saw this first in both Hot Topic and Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2.
There it is.
And then eventually watched it myself and enjoyed the claymation and enjoyed just the story and how they kind of turned a Christmas. They made a movie that's both a Christmas and a Halloween story.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. No. I heard you.
Oh, okay, good. But I also do want to bring up Henry Selick as a filmmaker. I do think think all of his stop motion movies are great, except Monkey Bone. And I'm just telling you, I'm just pointing.
He directed Monkey Bone? Oh, shit.
He directed Monkey Bone, and I'm just there's one person I know. He's weird. It's just obsessed with that movie. I never heard about it until they brought it up, but I'm like, it's the one bad movie he's ever made.
Yeah.
People defend it, or a person defends it.
Oh, you mean Chris Ayres?
No, well, I don't actually. I don't think it. I don't know Chris Ayres. It's someone else.
Okay. All right. Is it Gertz?
No, I don't know if it's Gertz. It's not anyone in the double toasted community.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I know like I respect the hell out of Monkey Bone for being so unbelievably weird. Like I will give credit for credit's due. That's a weird movie made by a weird dude.
It's a weird movie, but I just I'm like, is it good? I
don't think it's good. I don't. But it's like, okay, it's different. I'll give it that. It's different. Now what I would have expected. But
yeah, I think Coraline is also great, and
Coraline's amazing.
And I guess he's doing a movie with Key and Peele. But I was also just looking at his Wikipedia page. He's doing a Little Nightmares. He's directing the pilot of a Little Nightmares TV adaptation.
Yeah. Is that for Netflix?
Yeah, I think it's for Netflix because it's the Russos and they got a deal with Netflix.
That's right. Yeah, Russos are producing it, which is I heard about. I think I talked about that. I think that's been like in some form of development for like 4 years or something. It's been a while, but I mean that's cool. I mean, I want to see. I mean, it's like because it's absolutely influenced by his and Tim Burton's art style, Night Before Christmas, and non stop motion in general. It has that aesthetic, that claymation look, and he's like, oh yeah, he'd be the perfect one to do that. So hopefully we get that in the next few years. I think that'd be cool. Hopefully Netflix won't cancel it unless it's like a one and done type of thing. We'll see.
I'm pretty sure he's doing. There was like a teaser for it. He's doing this next movie is like a Netflix movie with Key and Peele, and they're like demons or something.
Oh, really? I don't think I've seen that. Okay, I gotta check that out. Nice, very nice. No, thanks for bringing that up too. I totally forgot about like some of his future projects and also the weird shit that he's done throughout his career. Very good, very good. Emily, what about yourself? How did you first see this movie and your general thoughts on the film?
I actually just finished watching it like maybe an hour ago.
Nice, fresh.
I'm not sure when I saw it as a kid. It was so long ago. It was just one of those movies you saw on TV in passing, or just it was on in the background, but I never really watched it all the way through until a little while ago. I mean, it's I can't say I'm gonna be I don't want to be controversial here.
I want really big different opinions. I want to get into a discussion.
I'm gonna be against everybody.
You're wrong for saying this thing.
I didn't really like it that much.
Okay, that's cool. Tell us why you didn't like it.
Blasphemer.
I mean, we all know how weird Tim Burton is. We're not going to sit here and be like, but compared to other Tim Burton films to me, this one just felt strange to me. I don't know if it's because of how popular Jack is, or just maybe it's because I'm not that fond of Christmas. I mean, I like Halloween, but in general, it's like I didn't really feel all that bad when he, took over Christmas, and it's just like the songs
It was a dope Christmas, right, Emily? That would have been like the coolest Christmas. I've never celebrated Christmas, but I'm like, if Christmas was like that, that would be awesome.
Like, I thought the whole movie was like, hey, everyone, Christmas, congrats, he did his job. Yeah, I was like, no, and he saved Christmas at the end there. It's just like, I wasn't really a fan. I'm not gonna sit here and shit on the movie unnecessarily.
No, please. I mean, even
Jack
if we talk
is a
about
cool
these,
character. I like Jack. He's a cool character, but it's just like, to me, it's just, I don't know. It's kind of boring.
We're going to go into more detail, especially about the characters. I do have some criticisms of these characters, even characters that I like, and even what they do in the film. A lot of some criticism that's directed towards this movie is that it's Tim Burton being Tim Burton. It's the same things that we've seen him do, even though it's Henry Selick, but it's taking Tim Burton's designs, taking Tim Burton's world, taking Tim Burton's story, and like, okay, here you go. I mean, Tim Burton has very much pigeoned. I mean, it's when you see it, Tim Burton's like, yep, that's a Tim Burton movie. Typically, it's like, yes, we'll have an anomaly like Ed Wood, or maybe Big Eyes, but other than that, it's like when you're watching a Tim Burton film, he has a specific aesthetic that he features throughout his movies, types of characters, art design, production design. And I can see people just getting like, it's just the same fucking shit. It's the same old thing. It's the same thing. And I get that. And I think some of the characters are underwritten. I mean, like the character of Sally, when I talk about, I mean, her whole thing is just like, I really like Jack, but he doesn't really care about me or know I exist. And that's what her whole thing is, that unrequited love. Even though she's constantly helping him, she has those visions, if you will, throughout the movie, which are very convenient. But again, then people say like, well, it's convenient how certain things are just handled and figured out. It's like, we're not going to punish you. It's just like, well, you learned a lesson, so good. Now we can move on, because it's about the music, and it's about the art and everything. And so like, you can criticize this movie. I can even though I love it, even though I love watching it and listening to music. I like the characters and their designs. There's things you can definitely criticize. I think that's absolutely fair game. So please disagree. I want you to keep going into more detail as we continue on, especially when we delve into the characters and some of the plot elements of this film. But Deadpool, we'll go ahead and end it with you, good sir. How did you first see this movie, and your general thoughts on the film since then?
Well, this movie came out like pretty much a year after I was born, so I wasn't old enough to go to the theater. At least I hope my parents didn't take me to the theater.
Yeah.
But we had it on VHS. So at some point, like after its VHS release, it was always kind of on the house, like around Halloween or Christmas.
Of course.
I think that's one of the benefits of why people like this movie, because it can be a Christmas movie or it can be a Halloween movie. Like you
Mhm.
can watch it both, so it kind of fits both holidays. I think one of the other reasons why it's become so popular is because Disney had no faith in it.
Yep.
So it's always kind of like it became a cult film because Disney's like, yeah, we don't. It's a weird movie. We don't know how to market it. We're just gonna release it, and then over the years, people pick it up, and it just becomes more and more popular. And it just wasn't mainstream Disney, so people kind of clung to it.
Fully agree with you. Yeah, it's and I kind of that's and you know what, you made a really good jumping off point, because one of the things I wanted to talk about before we get into like the characters and certain scenes and songs and the story itself and our likes of it and our dislikes of it. The fact that this film is still a cultural phenomenon nearly 30 years later. I mean, it's going to be 30. Yeah, it's 30th anniversary is going to be in 2024. That it has like this voracious fan base that continues to promote it and consume it and buy products. Whether it be a Jack Skellington T-shirt or a Sally cosplayer, it's like this still continues today. Are you guys? This is general, open up to anybody, but are you surprised at how popular this movie still remains and how people are just clearly obsessed with it and just wear merchandise from this film, or created from this film?
Personally, I'm not. Like, I think one of the biggest draws of this whole thing has been the aesthetic, and I think it may have it wanes and rises based on sort of like kind of like goth trends. Still, like even with the joke about Hot Topic, it's such an iconic, simple look, but at the same time, it has such depth to it too. And I think it kind of part of that kind of comes with Jack too, where he is that mix of he is very kind-hearted, he has such the good intentions, but he can also be terrifying too. And I think there's a part of everybody that really likes that mixture of dangerous but kind, and having that great look and that slim kind of like skeleton look for it too. He's got the great voice. It all just adds up to just a very marketable piece for the right audience. And that audience was also just a big part of like the 2000s. Like that's the Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit sort of generation. Like I was in high school and college through that, and I resonate more Linkin Park, not Limp Bizkit, but I resonate a lot with that. And with that came with I think the resurgence of Nightmare Before Christmas, and it just kept clicking. And that's why I made the comment earlier, like why it stands the test of time so well, because there's just so much aesthetically attractive about it that you just like if you're into it, you can't help but stay into it.
Very good points. Cassie, did you also want to bring up something?
Yeah, kind of going off that, I think it's the aesthetic, so combined with something else that Vanny mentioned about how Jack is an artist and going through burnout, and how there are mature themes in this movie. And I think because mature themes are in there and woven in a way that kids can understand, and so I feel are coded as neurodivergent, and I think it appeals to kids who probably are like social outcasts. I would say, like Jack and Sally both they're kind of quirky. They kind of don't have social skills in their own little ways, and I think everyone's kind of touched on that. Like these characters are definitely flawed, but I think a lot of people have latched on, like a lot of goth kids and emo kids, like they are that way because they're just trying to find a way to express themselves, and they're sorting out their emotions and all these identity crises, and also just trying to grow up. So I think this really appeals to that. It's a Disney movie and it's not afraid to be.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the struggle of trying to fit in. What are you going to say, Vanny? Or to express yourself in a way where you don't feel ostracized.
Yeah. And I think it starts right in the beginning with the first song of Halloween Town. And there's talk about, I'm the ghoul hiding under your bed, teeth ground sharp and eyes glowing red. I'm the one who you call who's there. All that stuff that's really kind of evokes that darkness. But there's also a line that one of them sings that, but we're not mean. And I think especially if you're a kid who may have been ostracized or an outcast, and you may start to dress, like I went to friends and I was one of those kids in high school who wore all black, and I wore like leather wristbands, and nobody understands me. But at the same time, I'm also like, I always like that one little line of like, but I'm not mean. It's just no one's really giving me a chance to get to know me either too. So yeah, like fuck off. But I won't say no to somebody who want to have a conversation, but you didn't want to. So I like that it gives you the balance of like you can be goth, but also you can be kind.
And I think that's also Tim Burton's thing as well, where he grew up being that quote unquote weird kid, where he liked all these, old monster movies, and he always identified with the monster or with these protagonists who are offbeat and strange. And he clearly wanted to make that a huge part of his film career. And he wanted to show, obviously, children that it's just so it's totally okay. It's good that you like these things. It doesn't make you a freak, if you will. And so, I think, and he's always been good about that. Right? You definitely like, hey, I'm in the corner of the weirdos, if you will. So, Anyone else have any thoughts on the popularity of it?
Yeah, and I got two things. First one is like with Jack. He's the Pumpkin King. Everyone loves him, but at the same time, he feels isolated and alone. It's not until the end of the movie where he actually finds someone who he can relate to, which kind of adds into what you guys were talking about with the whole like the outsider kind of thing. Even though he's the most popular person in town, he still has a hard time trying to find somebody who he can relate to.
True,
right?
So it's a struggle.
And my other thing I want to bring up, which is kind of unrelated to this, is the runtime of the movie.
Short.
Yeah, it's what, 76 minutes long?
I think so.
Which I think is kind of a double-edged sword. Because one, it hits every beat it needs to hit, does some pretty good songs. It doesn't overstay its welcome. But I think also at the same time, which it's probably because of how expensive it is to make the movie with stop motion, how long it takes. So
they
didn't want to stretch out longer than they had to. But I think they sacrificed a lot of character development, story development by having a shorter runtime.
And they cut some corners with the story. They definitely do that. Like, they have the whole element where Sally has visions. It's not explained as to why at all. She just does. And she just knows something's wrong. And she just knows. And she seemingly is able to show up at certain places and to thrust the plot forward. So you're not wrong about that at all. I think that is a very valid criticism of the movie, that it's just like, all right, well, we know what you're here for, and so you don't mind these conveniences with the story or just character dynamics can change on a dime like nothing. So very good points.
I was going to mention that. Also, wasn't this movie kind of revolutionary? Like, I know up at this time we had other like claymation. Like claymation has been done before this movie came out, but I feel like this movie like popularized claymation, because it feels like anytime people talk about claymation, they refer to this movie, similar to when they talk about like with Space Jam, like when they talk about cartoons and live action, they always refer back to Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yes, that's a good question. I know it was nominated for, because this is before the Academy had like a best animated movie category. I know this was nominated for best visual effects, I want to say. So it clearly had an impact in that regard, and critics and audiences recognized it. And I'm sure it definitely inspired a number of animators in general, whether they were stop motion or not, or claymation or not. I wonder. I would have be interested to know if this was kind of like a pioneer for stop motion or claymation, because we already had Wallace and Gromit beforehand, which I think they were already doing stuff like that in the 80s at the time. But I think probably Not Before Christmas might be even bigger than that. So it's a very good question. I don't know if this was like a game changer. It might as well have been. It's certainly, I think when you think of like 90s animated movies, it's up there as being something unique. But
check something here. And when you like, I even just looked up like claymation, like 90s claymation films. Like Google usually maybe have like a list ready to go for you. There's no list.
Just notices a couple.
Yeah, it's just more like just claymation in general. And
nice. Yeah. It must have been. It must have been that. That might have been like that movie that kind of kickstarted all of this. We started to see more of this type of animated film. So that's
it's definitely the biggest one. Yeah, I'm looking at the list right now of claymation films, and I don't recognize any of the only one I recognized was 1988's Michael Jackson Moonwalker had some claymation.
Wow.
and
There you
then some
go.
Wallace and Gromit stuff. That's it.
So that must have been
And-
it. Nightmare must have been that big claymation movie, stop motion movie then.
Yep, and the only
Makes
one
sense.
till Chicken Run in 2000. Like that would
That's
say
right.
that had that
Chicken
same
Run.
level.
Chicken Run was
Right.
huge. Chicken Runs was
Yep.
huge. I remember that one. So, yeah, I think if you had to pick like what have been some of the most influential stop motion animated films of the last decade or so, or 20, 30 years, I would probably say Night Before Christmas is up there. Coraline is up there. I would say Kubo and the Two Strings is definitely up there. Chicken Run, of course, and maybe Fantastic Mr. Fox, maybe not so mainstream, but those other ones certainly. Yeah, it's definitely rare to see. We don't get a stop motion animated film every year or something like that. It feels like every few years. It's kind of scarce.
Kubo is actually
That's like
it's not considered it's not claymation. It's just considered stop motion instead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a more subgenres of this animation style, if you will.
Yeah, worlds within worlds.
Yeah, world within worlds. Great way to put it. Moving on from kind of just, and we can go back to it. I imagine we'll continue to reference it as we go along. We're going to talk about specifically some of the characters, of course. And there's a lot of characters in this movie, but I feel like primarily the focus is on 4 in particular. And we've already mentioned him, but Jack Skellington, who is voiced by Chris Sarandon and Danny Elfman. Danny Elfman performs all the songs in the film as Jack. So Jack Laments, that is Danny Elfman's voice, which is like, God damn, he's got some. I think we think of Danny Elfman, we think of something like, oh, he's a John Williams. He's that kind of guy where he's a composer, of course, and a musician. But man, the guy has an amazing singing voice as well. But as we already kind of brought up in regards to Jack, if you guys like read into some of the, I don't know if this is like Tim Burton's ideas for the film or what his origin story was for some of these characters, but have you ever visited like the Nightmare Before Christmas wiki? What like it's like how they like might reference what he originally was beforehand. Has anyone done that before?
Years ago, I kind of know what you're talking about, but like there's something weird about this. Yes.
A lot of these characters have like really dark origin stories and where they kind of live. So they have, as we see in the movie, there's the very different towns in these little dimensional pockets. So we have Halloween Town, which is where Jack the Pumpkin King resides. This is the domain he rules over. And you have Christmas Town, which is what Santa Claus, that's where he rules over, et cetera, et cetera. We see Easter at one point when we see the Easter Bunny guest star. He's just fucking horrified. It's like, get me out of here. I think Valentine's Day. Like, I would love it if they ever did a sequel, which I don't know if they ever will, but if they ever did do one, I would love to see what these other worlds would look like. That'd be really cool. So like, we got a hint at Easter, but what about Valentine's Day? Thanksgiving has a door, I think, as well. What's that turkey world look like? It'd be very interesting to me. Yeah. But apparently, and again, I don't know if this is Tim Burton's ideas, or this is just fan creation, but Jack Skellington was a human at one time, but he was burned alive and executed. And every festival, after every Halloween, and the movie shows this, how it's like, this is Halloween, this is Halloween. And we see him with his pumpkin head, and we see him burn away, and his skeletal remains is what we finally do see. And it's referencing his origin when he first comes into Halloween Town. And it's like, well, that's really dark. Yeah. Really disturbing, where it's like, yeah, that's why I'm a skeleton, because all my flesh and internal organs were burned off when I was a living human. And I think they have it for like several other characters as well. Like Oogie Boogie has an origin story. Sally's a cadaver. That's what she is. She's made by Dr. Finkelstein. Just put together like it's very much Frankenstein's monster. And I think, some of the other characters, like the mayor was a corrupt politician. That's why he's two-faced constantly throughout the film, because politicians are two-faced, get it? And there's some other characters too, like the children were like murdered because they ate poison candy. So like Oogie Boogie's children that he has as little helpers, is like, all right, this is some dark, weird shit. But I remember the Jack Skellington one always just kind of it stood out to me because of how disturbing his supposed death was before he became the Jack Skellington proper. But I didn't want to talk about this character. I mean, we already discussed him to great lengths, but if anyone has any additional thoughts, I want you to bring them up. But I love the fact that he is just definitely going through this existential crisis where, again, he's very good at what he does, but he's so sad inside. He's sad. He's bored. This was his destiny. This is his life, and he's just like, I don't want to fucking do this anymore. I need something else. I'm inspired, and I love how it's like it's not even the love of a woman. That's not even what interests him until it's like, oh shit, oh maybe I am in love. I don't know. I guess at the very end of the film, but he wants to find true meaning. I think, yeah, like you brought up Vanny, you brought up Casfe. That's what I think we all want in our lives is like true meaning, something that does inspire us and makes us want to live on. But any other thoughts on Jack Skellington, the Pumpkin King?
I was kind of surprised by how much I liked him, I think, because I didn't know what kind of character he'd be going in. I guess I got the idea that he would be some sort of or villain type, which he was kind of an anti-hero, but not in a way that's going to make you particularly mad at him. Like,
Sure.
he's doing something that's going to turn out bad, but he's just saying, like, he just seems like one of those, like, I don't know, speaking of someone who has likely on the autism spectrum and all that, he just seems like one of those really over enthusiastic types of ADHD kids who hasn't had the life stomped out of them by society yet. He's so fascinated by things, especially like when he discovers Christmas for the first time. It's such a cute little moment. He's just like, what's this? What's this? What's this? And I love it.
It's very adorable. No, I agree with you where he almost is because like, okay, is he because based on design and the fact he's a ruler of Halloween Town, so he's going to be mischievous. He's going to might be downright evil, but he's not those things. I think his curiosity bites him in the ass, and he gets a little overzealous, and he doesn't think things through. That's why he needs a good woman to help him think things through. That's what it's all about. He makes rash decisions. That's what it is, because of his excitement, because of how initially bored he was of his previous life, and that's why he makes choices. He's like, I'm gonna be the new Santa Claus. Santa Claus is gonna love him. He needs a day off. He's like, but did you even ask him? Did you even think to ask Santa Claus if he wanted to have a day off, a year off Christmas? It's like, no. So it's none of his things, none of the things that he does, I think, is of a nefarious nature. They are inevitably nefarious because him and his people I love how they're just like, what are you talking about? We don't understand this at all. Even he's like, he has to lie to them or at least exaggerate the truth to a degree to make them understand it in Halloween terms. I think it's very amusing.
Yeah. I don't even think it's, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, I think with that day off stuff, he's the one who wants to day off. But go ahead, Manny.
Yeah. Oh, good point.
I think it's more he's projecting his excitement to it, and you have everybody else who is just like I don't understand what you're talking about, and that's why even when he does his explanation, and everyone's asking these questions, like when he shows the stockings, like, is the foot still inside? They're like, fucking no, you put candy, like rotten candy? No, like it's just regular candy, poison candy, and he kind of steps off to the side and he's still like, God damn it, no one gets what I'm trying to say. Like, he's so enamored that he can't read the writing on the wall. It's a very Kojima thing, I think, overall. I think it's still there's why I keep going back to the analog of an artist is he's got this vision and he's trying to explain it to like his non-artist friends. He's trying to explain it to his cast and crew and production teams. This is what I want to do. And they're like, I don't understand. This is not what we've done. And what do you mean a walking simulator? No, it's going to be good. No, it's like that. He's just trying to explain it, doesn't get it. And even though he's still saying like, okay, I'm clearly not explaining this right. He just was, fuck it, we're going to do it anyway. And so that's why you get the Making Christmas song, and why it's even that one is probably one of the darker songs because it's good intentions, but they're not getting it. And no one is telling Jack aside from Sally, stop it. You're going to fuck up 2 holidays now. So again, it's even kind of just the artistic like passion for the sake of no one telling him to say no, or nobody listening.
Yeah, no, fully agree. Great points to bring up. Does anyone have anything else they want to talk about in terms of like Jack or like moments with Jack that really stood out to them, or his character arc in general?
Please. It's more about Danny Elfman, I guess, because I know you don't know music, Chris. he was in a band called Oingo Boingo before us, so
I think I've heard of Oingo Boingo.
yeah. So I think he does a really good job in the singing, and
He does.
I think that's kind of what also makes the character is this that he has some good pipes, even though he doesn't have any pipes. Like he doesn't have because he's all skeleton.
Yeah. I get it. Yeah. It's I think Danny Elfman. He speaking of reprisal, he recently did the Jack Skellington song again. I think it was like back in Halloween, I want to say, and he had Billie Eilish as Sally, and they were doing a duet of Jack's Lament. I want to say that happened this year, and I listened to it. I was like, God, he's still good. He still fucking has it. So they want to make a sequel, which I'm saying, like, I think you could. I mean, it's good as it's by itself, and who knows, Disney might fuck it up, or Tim Burton might fuck it up, or Henry Selick might fuck it up. But if they ever wanted to do one, it's like, well, they can, at least the music will be good. I know that for a fact. There's no question about that. Yeah. And I don't think, because moving on, because I wanted to move on from Jack, and of course, if anyone has anything else to say about Jack Skellington, then please go ahead and interrupt me and tell me to be quiet.
I do have one more thing.
I will be quiet. Go ahead, Daniel.
All right. Well, since we're speaking about Danny Elfman, like his girlfriend was working on the script for this movie, and they lived together at the time.
No shit.
So he was working with her on the script while he was helping write the music. And initially, he wanted to do the voice of Jack, not just the singing voice.
Wow.
But, oh, go.
No. I was just gonna say, I wonder, like, why? What's the big deal that didn't have him voice him too, since he did the sing voice? But go ahead.
Because they didn't think he was that good of an actor.
Oh.
They wanted a professional actor to do the voice acting.
Right.
They compared his voice acting to Chris Sarandon, who did the actual voice, and it's just like he's just a better actor, which kind of ticked off Danny Elfman a little bit because he really wanted to do it because he helped the whole struggling artist thing is based off of him.
Oh, wow.
Like he helped create that character, and it's based off him as an artist. That's why the songs resonate so well with the character, because he wrote it while he's helping his girlfriend refine the script.
What's his girlfriend? Because you said it was the screenwriter. Is it Caroline Thompson? Because I'm just looking up online. Just right now. Oh, look at that! Look at that! Wow.
Yeah, which is funny because them knowing each other is how he got involved with the music.
Oh, okay. Well, that's nice. I didn't know that. Look at that little explanation. I love it. Bringing in the details. Very nice. Very nice. Cool. Well, you know what? Speaking about girlfriends, it's a good jumping off point. Talking about the character of Sally, voiced by Catherine O'Hara, which I'll give you a little fun fact here. The last film that Catherine O'Hara worked on with Tim Burton was Beetlejuice. He played the mom in that film. He was, doing the goddamn Macarena in that movie, whatever the hell it was, whatever they were saying at one point.
Damn.
That's it. Yeah.
The Banana Boat song?
Yes.
Beetlejuice wasn't the only movie where Catherine O'Hara was playing a crazy mom. She was also that Penelope movie. She was also a crazy mom in that movie, crazy, like, controlling mother in that movie, too.
I never saw that film. Penelope, it's called? Gotta check that out. But no, she voiced the character of Sally. And, Sally is the one that definitely has the most sense in the film. I love that she's like this Frankenstein cadaver abomination. But she still looks great. She looks good. Her dad always doting over her. Although weird how she always tries to kill him, trying to escape because he's just like, he's one of those fathers who is just, I'm not going to let you outside. I don't want you dating boys. We're not going to have it. You're my little girl. And she's like, I just want to find a boyfriend. Like, that's her whole thing. And this unrequited love that she has for Jack, and Jack barely noticing her, except maybe on a couple occasions. I think Catherine O'Hara does a great job. I think her song is great, especially when they do reprisal again at the end, which is, incorporating her stuff with Jack Laments. I think it's beautiful. But she is definitely she's a mixed bag of a character, where I love that she has this common sense that Jack clearly does not fucking have. And, she makes the effort to save the day on multiple occasions. However, they do take some shortcuts with her. It's like, I guess she's just clairvoyant, and she's able to, like, all right, we need to do this now in the plot. And I was like, and yeah, that's brought. I think if we brought it before, I think maybe Deadpool you brought up, where it's like, all right, we only have like about an hour and 15 minutes of screen time, if that, and we got to keep going. So she's kind of given a lot of the exposition type stuff. It's like, okay, here it is. I'm explaining this. Let's go. Next scene. I got to save Santa Claus. Oh no, I'm a damsel in distress. Jack, save me! My thick thighs couldn't distract Oogie Boogie long enough. So, I like the character, but there is some weird stuff that they do with her. There's some interesting choices, but controversial choices maybe. But anyone else have any opinions on the character of Sally? Likes, dislikes?
Yeah, I love how resourceful she is, like with the way she uses her dismembered or detachable limbs, certain situations. Or I guess in that scene where she was tied up, Oogie was watching her. Maybe that's why she couldn't do it. I don't know. But I do like the parts where she's proactive and like one parts herself out a fucking window in order to escape and then stitches herself up at the bottom. I thought them. And then the whole spoon thing where her dad's like, I want you to taste this first. And she's like, oh, okay, sure. Oh, whoops. Like, I'm glad she has those moments. I wish that her romance with Jack more fleshed out because I think there is potential there. And I think as characters, they both are compatible and could have a healthy relationship, but they sort of at the end throw them together with a love duet. And it was a sweet moment and I loved it, but I'm just like, I wish they could have had like that earlier in the movie, or maybe even during Jack's lament, instead of her watching him from behind a gravestone, maybe they could have interacted in that scene and she could have told him that she understood, although how it showed how neither of them has social skills really, but it just, I just wanted more connection between them. But I guess it's also the fact that they had to get through this movie and hit the points they needed to hit.
I agree.
Right.
I feel like they really did just rush it because you're in the moment when they have the reprisal at the end, the lament. I really like that. It for that isolated thing. But that's one of the big things I think would have really helped the film had they just had more interaction and he just been aware. But he's just not. But you're right. They might be socially awkward. Go ahead, Fanny.
Yeah, because there's the scene where Sally sends Jack the picnic basket and inside's a bottle of wine, and then you see the little heart come out of there too. Right. So like she does indicate like, yes, I do have some sort of affection or feeling for you too. But I think to Cassie's point, I would have loved to have seen a scene at the very end when you're going up against Jack's up against Oogie Boogie, where she's the one who like lets out the string to Oogie Boogie to Jack, so he could be the one pull it. So she helps in the fight.
Right.
Like something to show like they're working together and like they could have gotten through it. But yeah, that was I actually only have that one critique is just the romance at the very end. Just kind of like there needed to be like one scene afterwards where they actually generally do relate.
They needed a conversation.
Yeah, one normal conversation. They needed to talk
to each other. Yeah, like normal people. As normal as they can be.
Yeah, exactly. Like they needed a hell of a boss moment where they could just actually like have a. Or even during the montage of when they're making Christmas and like Sally's making the Santa Claus suit and them just having a conversation, just real briefly, or even as part of the montage, seeing them interacting would have made that ending feel a lot more complete.
Jack, the one conversation they do have is like, Sally, oh, I need you right now. Sew this. You're a woman, right? You know how to sew. There you go. Do it. And she's like, I don't think that's sexist. Jack, God damn it.
But to be fair, you do see her sewing herself back together.
Good point. So he just knew, well, you sew yourself together all the time. All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any thoughts on Sally?
Actually, I have a question. Oh,
go ahead.
Like, so you're saying that like clairvoyance? Like, I guess I'm not like I've seen the film. I guess I don't see like visions or clairvoyance in her.
When the Christmas tree she has turns to like cinders and stuff, she's like, did that actually happen?
I took that as real. I took that as because they don't know what they're doing. Like they make a little Christmas tree and it explodes because they just didn't know what they were doing.
Okay.
That's the way I took it.
Fair enough. I always thought that was like, oh, I'm seeing what there's bad things to come, but that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Austin, you were going to say something, or so? Who was going to say something?
Yeah, kind of something to Vanny's point. Something I learned recently. There was going to be an alternate ending to this movie that I didn't know. So it turns I how I'll put this up. It turns out the doctor was Oogie Boogie, like her father was Oogie, and
he was going to be a villain.
He was going to basically be the villain, and he did this all because Sally loves Jack and not him, even though he made her, which is very weird, I think, in my opinion.
That's a weird, fucked up, daddy relationship right there. I made you, and therefore you're mine. Like, yeah, that I can imagine that was a studio, and they said a studio note, and they went, no, we're not going to do that. Which I actually understand why.
Yep.
Also, it just makes more sense. Kind of where, because it's, it's like, well, then they're just. I think there's just two different. I just like the Oogie Boogie being a character, but I think it also, again, less creepy.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in the DVD commentary. It was a special feature where they showed the storyboards for an alternate ending where it was the doctor. Dr.
Finkelstein. Or the mad scientist, as he's also called in the movie. Yeah, that would have been really weird. And I think that Disney just went, no.
And it would have made the story weaker too.
What were you going to say, creepy, though. I was just going to say that I think at the end he's like creating another companion that I'm pretty sure is a female companion that's like around later. So that's when he decides, okay, Sally, you can do whatever, I guess. And it's still creepy because it's like he had to replace her with someone.
Yep.
Yeah,
he made a real doll.
Yeah, that's exactly what he did. Yeah, he's an odd character, and I can see how they, he was going to be much darker. It's like some of the seeds were already there. I was like, okay, I can see how they would have done that. Yeah. At least what they had in the movie. Any other thoughts on Sally before we move on to? Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Nuzi. Okay.
Oh, Sally. She reminds me of me, unappreciated and kicked to the curb. Well, I like her song, to be honest. Especially the what it means to her. I felt that in my soul. So, yeah.
Nice.
She reminds me of The Corpse Bride. It's another movie. I'm not sure.
It's a Tim Burton movie.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, it is.
I could totally. Tim Burton's inspired by Tim Burton. He definitely took what from Night Before Christmas. Like, okay, I can do this again. Or I can do it better. And it's like, nah. Yes. Any other thoughts on Sally?
So originally, Sally was supposed to be more of a minor character.
Oh.
But Caroline Thompson related to that character a lot and pushed Tim Burton to let's make this like one of the more main characters, almost the second lead of the movie. And again, like she wrote the script while Danny Elfman was making the music, and they were working together. So a lot of elements of their relationship are these characters. Like she's Sally and Danny Elfman is Jack.
So personal.
Like Jack is this artist. Well, Danny Elfman is this artist making this music who wants to have it his way. And she's just kind of trying to wrangle him in, keep him in line. And you can definitely see that relationship between the two characters in the movie as well.
Art imitates life. So thoroughly. Nice. Very cool. I like all these little fun facts and little details you guys have. Very good. Very good. Well, moving on from Sally, unless anyone else, we can always go back to these characters too. But there's one other one I wanted to touch on, and we can go off to anyone else you wanted to mention if you thought like, oh, no, I would like what they did with him or her or whatever. Oogie Boogie, who is the villain of the film, who has a fantastic music and dance number in the movie, voiced by Ken Page, who has been doing live performances of this character for decades since the movie originally came out. But he's like, oh yeah, we need a villain. Which is funny because it almost feels like, does this film like need a villain really? Because it's just like it's a mistake that everyone made. It's like, it was a bit of confusion. Jack got overzealous. But Oogie Boogie does come in as this other element in the film who also resides in Hollywood, which everyone is fucking scared of, by the way. I don't know why Jack doesn't just deal with him. He inevitably does. He definitely does kill him. Or it's heavily implied that he kills him. But, I just love it because it also shows like a different type of musical number too, where it's very jazzy and bluesy and things. And I really like that. And his design is this sack that's actually filled with a combination of stop motion and real insects. I love this whole thing, and even his song and his torturing of Santa Claus. And his whole idea that like his thing is all about vice, about gambling. I really like that about him. But any other thoughts on Oogie Boogie?
I think he works as a villain just in that he is the result of Jack's like hubris. Like when he sends out Lock, Shock, and Barrel to go get Sandy Claus, that is the dumbest idea. But again, when you're it keeps going back to the allegory. When you're not thinking clearly, if you're just thinking of Endgame, how you get there almost doesn't make any difference. So he just uses everybody. And so he's thinking, yeah, the 3 trick-or-treaters could take care of an old man. It'll be fine. And not realizing like, oh crap, yeah, they would totally give it back to Oogie Boogie. But again, it's just that single narrow view does cause you to make mistakes. So I think that's also part of the lament. And when he realizes like, oh my God, like when he, after like the realization, like how badly he fucked everything up, they realize, oh my God, yeah, the kids totally took him to Santa Claus to Oogie Boogie. This is a terrible idea. And it's just that really, like I think he serves as like the reminder of the repercussions of your actions too. And like I think keeping him in that frame works, is how Oogie Boogie does work. And the just fact that he does represent like chaos and the genuine, like he's the boogeyman. He is a monster that doesn't really have a purpose other than to scare kids. So he doesn't, they kind of get a buy with him for like, what's his purpose? Why does he want to kidnap Santa Claus? Doesn't matter. He's the monster under your bed. He's the boogeyman. That's what he's supposed to do. That's all he's there to do. So you don't need a villain with a great motive at this point.
Yeah, he's just the pure. He's the chaotic evil. He's the chaotic evil, if you will, of Halloween Town in this case. Yeah. Any other thoughts on Oogie Boogie, the boogeyman?
I loved the addition of a villain that raises the stakes even more, because I already knew I was going to get something dark, and the first maybe third of the movie I was like, okay, this is cool, I like it, this is a good starter movie for kids who are into this kind of stuff. But then I think around the time that he gets more fleshed out, Jack's about to ruin Christmas for everyone and all that stuff, like the stakes are getting higher, stuff's getting more and more disturbing, and I'm like, oh, okay, this has some bite to it. And of course it really spices up the soundtrack as well. I love it's just so creepy, and those creepy, like, glowy things in his mouth, too, and that scene with his death, or apparently he doesn't die. He comes back in the video game.
That's
but
right.
It was the most disturbing scene in the movie.
Yeah. No, it is. It's like Jesus. When it just takes off his skin, his burlap sack skin, and then all the parts of him start falling into that magma pit, that cauldron, that spinning weird magma cauldron that he has. Like, oh my God. So that is definitely the creepiest scene in the movie. Also, it kind of sets up a cool dynamic. Like, okay, there's clearly other players in these other towns, these dimensions that want total control. Oogie Boogie's like, I'm gonna get rid of Jack Skellington so I can rule Halloween Town, and I really like that there's this power dynamic. It's the Game of Thrones, if you will, of the Nightmare Before Christmas, which I think is really fun.
Yeah. And it also does serve the dichotomy of Halloween Town itself, of being the playful kind of scary that you get in Halloween Town versus the actual genuine fear and that Boogie represents. So I do like the fact that they are on opposite sides. And I think that's actually why Jack keeps him alive too. Like, he does serve a purpose. It's just that he overstepped.
Exactly. And you fucked up. I gotta kill
Super
you.
bad. Yep.
Yeah, it's like, all right, you have one chance and you messed up. That's a good point. They also gotta keep him in like a prison area. Do you notice that? It's like, where it's like, all right, we'll keep you down there. You stay down there. Like, they don't let him out often, or the kids like feed him. They feed him like mutated bugs and shit. I was like, okay, that's interesting. It's just like, how does this world work? Always so curious. But yeah, he is very much an agent of chaos. Any other thoughts on Oogie Boogie?
I actually have a thing, and this is something to do with what I was studying today. So, if you look back at like old Betty Boop cartoons, you notice Cab Calloway, he was like a jazz singer.
Yeah.
He's in blues. He's very much Oogie Boogie, where that inspiration comes from. That kind of jazz singing, but also where vice and sin goes in, and like dice and gambling are behind him while he's doing kind of like a jazzy, kind of bluesy song.
That you're right, because you think of like the cadence of the song. Where it's like that, like back in the Betty Boop cartoon, that ha-da ho, and he kind of, and Oogie Boogie definitely does that, or like does a variation of that. So that's true. And I imagine Tim Burton watched that cartoon as a kid and was obsessed with it. You can even see some of the aesthetic kind of melding with Nightmare Before Christmas, or definitely he borrowed that and put that with Nightmare Before Christmas. So excellent point to bring up. Well, moving on. Is there any other character? Like the other character I can only think of. It's actually another thing. Because I want to talk about the aesthetic briefly again, which is of Santa Claus, of Sandy Claus, as the denizens of Halloween Town call him. Where he's very much the classic Santa Claus, except he's Tim Burtonized, if you will, where it's like, yes, Halloween Town's like, oh yes, this is absolutely what I would expect with Tim Burton. Everything's a spiral, everything is a point. There is asymmetry. Tim Burton does not like symmetrical things. He does not like symmetry. But the same is also for Christmas Town, because even when Jack goes there and is doing, what's this? What's that? Like everything else is also disturbing. Maybe even more so, because that's like a cutesy look to it now. And it's like you still have these weird misshapen lumpy elves everywhere. And then like Jack sneaking into their homes and shit and touching them. I was like, what the hell is going on? And Santa Claus is just morbidly obese with these whittle twig legs and everything. It's like he's not pleasant to look at. And I even love how that carries over into the other riffs, if you will. So that it's also, despite it's Christmas and it's supposed to be great. And it's full of kindness and joy and sugar plum fairies and candy canes and all that shit. It's like, it's still weird and gross. And I like that it also had that.
I do like the fact this is also Santa Claus that is also kind of like a voice of reason thing too, because as soon as Jack apologizes, he doesn't get like, oh, don't worry about it. He can say, what the hell kind of response. Like next time you have an idea, listen to her. She's the only one with some sense in this goddamn town. Like you actually see like a person, like he's not completely joyful. Like he is just like, you really fuck things up. Like, I have to now go fix this. I have to go do overtime now. The elves are in a union now, too. So now I have to go collective bargain about this. Like, the logistics you just caused me, fuck you. And then he just leaves. And then he kind of calms down and be like, all right, I am Santa Claus. Fucking fine.
All right, happy Halloween to you, Jack. I think that's what they say, because Jack says Merry Christmas. He says Happy Halloween.
Halloween, yeah. But it's just like, there's an edge to this Santa Claus that's rightfully earned. It's like, Merry Christmas, dick.
I would have loved if they went to war with each other. That's the sequel.
Exactly.
It's like, I will rain hell upon you for what you did. That's an possible idea. But yeah, no, because he's at one point he's captured and he's at the mercy of Oogie Boogie. But I do like he gives Jack a little bit of a comeuppance, like, don't do this again.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
It's funny that you guys mentioned them going to war, because on Tuesday I'm running a D&D one shot for my D&D group for that's Christmas theme. That they're special forces going after Halloween Town.
Oh, look at that! There you go. See, clearly other people have been inspired by that take. That's awesome. That's really, really funny. Any other thoughts? Now, we brought up Santa. If anyone's had any opinions on Santa Claus, or Sandy Claus, as he's often referred to in the movie. Any other thoughts on him or another particular character? Because everyone else is pretty much like a tertiary character in the movie. When you think about it, like they have their moments and things. But is there like a particular character that came up? You're like, I really like this guy or her.
I would have to say the dog Zero. It's very iconic look for the character, and plays. Yeah, it's almost Jack's version of Rudolph too.
Yep.
Oh, very much so.
A literal reference. Yeah. I think Zero. Yep. And a fun little Easter egg: Zero's nose actually is a jack-o'-lantern.
Oh shit, you're right. That makes so much sense too.
Yep. Yeah, but and the one I was just at Disneyland yesterday. I went to the Haunted Mansion, and they've redone the entire thing to be Nightmare Before Christmas themed, so that Jack went to the mansion. He did his whole thing with it, and Zero's like presence is seen throughout the whole thing. So like if you've ever been to seen the Haunted Mansion before, they'll do a gimmick where you'll see photos and then like lightning will strike, and then you'll see a the gothic version of it instead, or like the horror version. In this version now, you'll see Zero floating through the photos, and every time he enters a new photo, that's where the goth image shows up too. So yeah, it works really, really well here too. But yeah, I agree. I think Zero is also just as iconic for this film. Just because it was just such a visual treat. Like, it was a ghost dog, and so playful, and again, super just innocent as well.
Yeah, he's not mean-spirited or anything like that. He's like, what's the thing you said, like in the beginning of the song? It's like, we're all these things, but we're not mean. Yeah, which I think is really
Zero's
cute.
A perfect example. Yeah,
he is. And that's cool. That just shows you. It's so interesting that they completely did up the Haunted Mansion to be Night Before Christmas theme. It's funny because, again, you think about Disney, like, we don't know about this movie. We don't have a lot of confidence in it. And now it's like, oh, we have thoroughly embraced this. And now they're talking about a live-action remake. and
God, I
things.
hate
And I'm
that.
like, I don't know. I'm like, how are you gonna fucking make that work? I don't know.
That terrifies me.
I don't know. It's CGI, but then I just don't want it. Don't do it. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
And the only, you know what? I'll let you, Deadpool. I'll let you talk just because I just want to make one point, and it's the only way I can see them doing it is maybe if they address some of the criticisms we've had, like fixing some of the plot holes, the conveniences, maybe giving Sally more to do. I think that would have been interesting. But anyway, that's just my thought. Deadpool, go ahead.
I'd rather them just make a sequel and do that.
Right.
Like if the characters fix the plot holes, this way you're not trying to reinvent the wheel. You get the because this would actually work for a sequel of some of the few movies that probably deserves one. This way you can give Sally more screen time. We get to explore the other holiday doors. There's so much more you can do with this world and these characters. I'd rather them just do a sequel than trying to reinvent the wheel.
I agree. I'd rather a sequel.
So the interesting thing is, I used to listen to the soundtrack constantly, and there actually is in the soundtrack an epilogue of the entire story.
Oh shit!
Yeah, and it's done from Santa's perspective, where he goes to visit many years later, and it turns out that because of Jack's actions, now all of these holidays now know the others exist, and so they're not kept in these separate universes now. So it's like, now what do we do? So there's a little bit of a hint of that, and then it kind of fast forward and then years later, I'm sitting at home and I think about the Pumpkin King, so I decide to pay him a visit, and this is all voiced by Patrick Stewart. And
really? Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he goes back to Halloween Town just to visit, and he sees Jack there with his kids, and they're playing their xylophone band and they're having fun. And it's now at this point now, it's two old friends who are sitting down with a conversation. It's almost very Professor X and Magneto having a conversation at the Twilight years. And they, Sandy asked the question, if you can think back to all those years ago when you almost screwed up everything and we almost didn't have a Christmas, if you could, knowing what you know now, do it all over again. And then it goes and then Jack looks over at me with this skeleton grin and just says, "Wouldn't you?" And that's how the story ends. So it's just he wouldn't have regretted anything, because to him, that's, again, for Jack's perspective, that was his inspiration that got him back into doing Halloween again, and he got a family out of it.
Wow.
Yeah, I love that ending. That should have absolutely been the ending.
I agree with you. Wow. No, that should be the ending of the movie. Holy shit. And maybe they could do that. Maybe they could take that. I think there's something there.
Yeah.
There's a lot there. There's a lot more material they can work with. The idea that they're all together and they all are aware of each other and celebrate each other. That would be really interesting. And there's understanding. Despite their differences, there's mutual understanding. I love that. Love that idea. Wow. Nice.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful ending.
Be a bunch of drunken leprechauns.
Oh yeah, because St. Patrick's Day. That's one of the other ones. That was
one of them too. Yeah.
And Thanksgiving could be just a bunch of sentient turkeys who find out what Thanksgiving's really about.
Yep.
That's all they would do. That's all. It's based on. Well, it's based on one good Thanksgiving, and between the Pilgrims and the Native Americans, and they never celebrated it again.
Yeah. Yep. That's when the turkeys go. Why? Long story.
Long story. Yeah.
Here's dark. Ken Burns. Ken Burns will tell you about it. It's fine.
That is, there is so much. You know what? There you go. You guys are right. There is so much material then there. To do a sequel. I would prefer that. That would make a lot of sense.
There technically was. There is an Xbox game.
Oh, really?
There's a sequel. Capcom made it. It's terrible, but it was it served as a sequel for what happens after, which is the resurrection of Oogie Boogie.
Right. Oogie Boogie's
very much a return to Jafar. I think it's what we call the Revenge of Oogie or something.
Oh my God! Let's not do the Return of Jafar of Nightmare Before Christmas sequels, because there's a lot of good material. There's a good, proper, theatrical movie. I think they could do it, but I don't want a live action film. Don't do that.
No,
that would be the lazy thing to do.
There is a book, I think, that's coming out. I don't know if they're going to make a movie out of it. They've been trying to make it happen, but I don't know.
The manga, is that it?
I don't know. I heard there's going to be a novel that serves as a sequel, but
really?
I don't know.
Oh shit! There's a but that just shows you what's so interesting is that despite this movie being nearly 30 years old, there's such a wealth of material that could potentially make a sequel. Oh, people are just doing it anyway. So that's fascinating to me. I like that. I didn't expect this conversation to go into this direction. That's what's so cool about doing Discourse. You never know what's going to take you. And all these people and all of you guys bringing all this information that I was completely unaware of. So that's awesome. Very, very nice.
Yep. July 2022 is the sequel. Novel.
A novel. I wonder if they'll adapt it then. I wonder what that's going to be.
Long Live the Pumpkin Queen.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, kind of to do like a bit of a. Is there any other characters though? Did you guys want to mention beforehand before we kind of go into our favorite moments and scenes in the movie?
Oh, did you guys talk about the mayor?
Oh, the two-faced mayor.
Yeah.
We mentioned him before, but I just love his design.
Oh, okay. He just reminds me of Alex Jones. So yeah.
Was an asshole. Immediately thought, Jack is dead. Let's broadcast it to the whole town. Jack is dead. The world is ending. Jack is dead. It's like
I like his what's his line? Or it's like, I can't make a decision. I'm a publicly elected official.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. that one statement fully comprises his entire character. No, he's really fun. I like the three little shits, the trick-or-treaters. One of them, Paul Rubens voices one of them. And I think Catherine O'Hara also voices the girl. She voices the little witch. And I forget who voices the other one. But yeah, just how they're like, they're just shitty little kids. That's what they are. And they, they have a dual loyalty to two different people. They're the power players and they're stabbing people in the back, which I like that.
I thought they were all boys.
I think the witch is a girl.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And other than that, like pretty much everyone else is just kind of like background tertiary character. I mean, obviously Dr. Finkelstein. Dr. Finkelstein has a lot of lines. And obviously he was supposed to have an expanded role.
Yeah.
But moving on from any of the characters, unless anyone wants to bring something else up.
I think a lot of the characters, even the ancillary ones, do have some personality. Fortunately, like the werewolf who corrects the mayor about how many days left till next Halloween, or after the initial song when Jack's walking away and he gives a coin to like the jazz player, and he's like, "Nice work, Bone Daddy."
Oh,
like,
that's right, Bone Daddy. Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah, no, you have these background characters, but they do have like some memorable lines. Or all the designs too. Like you have that one, I don't know how to describe him, that cadaver, that giant, like he's like got like a small little head, but this huge body, he's got like an axe in it, and he's all derpy. Like, I don't know what that guy's name is, but yeah, everything stands. His actions are super slow because of the axe probably in his head.
Right.
There's so much, clever little designs throughout the film and for the characters especially. They stand out.
Yeah, and for a short film, they need that.
True, because we can't have so many characters. At least we'll make them visually interesting. If we can't make them their personalities interesting, so that's true. Well, moving on from that, I did want to go ahead and jump into like kind of the final part of this discussion, and that's our favorite. Since it's a musical, we got to talk about our favorite song and also our favorite moment. I'll go ahead and start, and then we'll just go to each person so they have some time to speak. But my favorite song, it's kind of, I guess, not really a cheat, but it's Jack's Lament, but the ending version where Sally comes in and she uses her Sally's Lament, and it's called the reprisal, if you will. And I just love that song. I love how he references his original piece earlier on, but he's more mature. He has more knowledge about what happened, and he also finds love. I thought it was a very beautiful piece, and of course, it has the iconic image of him on that hill, that twisty, twirly hill with the moon behind him. That's so big, that full moon. And my favorite moment is the Christmas present scenes where all the children are opening up their gifts and they're all fucking horrified. And like they're being chased. Like you have that one fat kid who's being chased by something, or the one that has like a shrunken head, or like that wreath that's going to eat that grandmother. It's just all of that shit, that little montage of all these horrifying presents. Everyone going, ah! As they're being chased around their homes. I thought was very darkly amusing. But we'll go ahead. I think the person we started with last time was Vanny in regards to general thoughts. So we'll go ahead and we'll start with Deadpool, and we'll go down the line. So Deadpool, your favorite song and your favorite moment in the film.
Well, I guess my favorite song is the "What's This" song when he gets Christmas song, because it's such a classic song, especially for just the Christmas time of year.
Of course.
And my favorite moment is after he gets shot down by the military.
Oh yeah.
he's just laying there on the statue, and Zero wakes him up, and he's like, "Oh man, I made terrible mistakes. I really screwed up." Because we've all had that moment where we realize, "Oh, I made a series of terrible mistakes."
Just took a kick in the ass to realize.
Or an artillery shell.
Or artillery shell, yeah, or flak, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so he's just there seeing. It's just like, I really messed up. I should have listened to Sally.
Yep. She has common sense. He's the only one that knows what's going on around here, or has any sense. Emily, what about yourself? Your favorite song, your favorite moment?
Like Oogie Boogie song. It was always a good villain song. My favorite scene was the mayor having a panic attack and flailing down the stairs at the beginning of the movie. It's like, Jack, where are you?
He's very roly poly. I think that's He's like, the fat person fell over. It's hilarious. So yeah, that's always funny. Austin, what about yourself? Your favorite moment, your favorite song?
Sorry, I was just looking at. I think my favorite moment. Favorite moment. I like the vampires when they're playing hockey in the snow.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
I think there's something. So I don't know. Something really nice about it. Favorite song, kind of similar to Emily. I really like the Oogie Boogie song just because of it's just a different style of music, but just also the colors. It's different than it's like, how did they do all these, like, honestly, these neon looks to everything? It must have, like, that song probably took a long time to do.
Difficult to animate. Yeah, I imagine so. The lighting, especially. Very good choice. No, I think that's one of the most popular songs, if not the most popular song in the entire movie. Cass, what about yourself? Your favorite?
Well written. It also had a stream of consciousness feel because she's kind of talking about everything, at the end, she kind of veers into talking about Jack, which is very in character for her. But up till that point, she's kind of just talking about what everything is. And it just feels like a realistic way to process one's thoughts. And something about it really hit me. And I love the little moments with Jack and with Zero. Like, when Jack is on that statue, he's kind of dramatically draped over it. He was like, it's very theatrical. And I also like Zero's introduction is that he's coming out of a grave where the stone's shaped like a dog. He's coming through the door, and I just love that. And I was immediately intrigued by him.
There's a lot of great little visual gags in that, but I agree with you. Sally Song is great. Catherine O'Hara does a really good job. And I like, she's speaking her mind. And she's the only one that seems to be honest with herself. M. Xavier, about yourself, your favorite moment, your favorite song?
So my favorite song is the first one.
This is Halloween.
Yeah, I just like it, and also because I've heard it so many times before. But my favorite moment is probably when they're delivering the gifts, when the children open the gifts, but specifically the first one, because I don't know what it was, but the child had this look on his face, like maybe it was their first Christmas, and they're like, they open it and they're like, "Is this what we're supposed to get?" And then the parents scream, and so I thought that was the best, and that broke me at that point. But yeah.
Same. Yeah, the Christmas present scene is one of my favorite moments, and I love that that kid's just experience that 1,000-yard stare. That expression kills me as well. Newsy Ducky, your favorite moment and your favorite song in the movie?
Favorite song was definitely Sally's. That one was stuck in my head that I subconsciously just started singing to myself. It's kind of it's a nice little lullaby, I would say. And favorite scene, I would say the intro It reminds me so much of Coraline.
Yeah.
And I think when Jack was kind of like teleporting to the Christmas town, that that little scene with the spirals, it definitely reminds me of Coraline. It has so much similarities to that. And yeah, I think that's all I have. Yeah.
I think one day we're going to have to talk about Coraline, because I agree that's a great stop motion animated movie.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so I think we'll definitely again, like I always say, if you have any suggestions for a future film, send them my way. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be themed. I just put up things that I think might be relevant to talk about, like for a particular week, if there's like a release or like a TV show or a movie that came out. But again, it can be anything. It doesn't matter. Whatever you guys want to talk about, send it my way. Coraline would be great for discussion. I've not seen that movie in a very long time, because it came out like in the 2000s, right? Is that 2007? So yeah, it was a while ago. I don't think I've seen it since then, so I need a little bit of a refresher. But no, thanks for bringing that up. And Vanny, wrapping up, good sir. Favorite moment, favorite song in the film?
Both are the same answer. The original Jack's Lament. Just seeing him at his absolute lowest, realizing all the chaos that he's caused, and then just being able to pick himself up, and then having that renewed energy, and has such a huge shift in tone and such a powerful moment for the character. And it just, to me, that's everything. And I love the song. I love the moment. And just when he rips off the Sandy Claus costume and he's back in his original black and white suit, it's such an amazing moment. And then when he realizes what he has to do now, just, yeah, it's a 10 out of 10 moment for me in that film.
It is also probably the one where he's doing Jack Laments, the first version of it, not the reprisal.
Yeah.
But it's probably the most famous image of the movie. When people think about The Nightmare Before Christmas, I mean, it's on the poster, it's on T-shirts, it's on mugs, it's on everything. I feel like for a lot of people, at least for I can only speak for myself, but I feel like for a lot of people, that is one of the first visuals to come to mind when thinking of this movie. It's embedded in pop culture. It's embedded in our minds. So I totally understand why. Yeah.
That and the kid pulling out the dead head, the shrunken head.
Yeah, that's such a great scene. I love that. I love childhood trauma is hilarious.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. And you become more mature. You become a more well-rounded individual, of course, all that childhood trauma.
Yeah.
But
there's a scene though, there's a line in there too that I was really kind of taken back by as a kid, because I grew up when you're watching like kid shows or stuff aimed at younger adults, you never say, "Oh my God," you say, "Oh my gosh." Because you don't want to like invoke a religious thing. And that was the first animated film that I remember seeing where it, because the line in there says, "And by God, I really did something swell." And just the way he emphasizes the word God, I was like, oh wow, you guys can do that. You just chose not to for this entire like 30 fucking years of animation. Like I think it just kind of adds that weight to it too. It was just like, if they went by gosh or any other line, it would have completely diminished the song, I think. But it has such a, and not even use that for the theological standpoint, but just from a wording standpoint, it works so well to just emphasize like his like, God damn it, I really did something. That's cool. It fucked up, and I'm some like a big fat guy. My potential girlfriend's gonna die, but hey, the story.
It carries more weight. It carries more weight, and just within that moment, but also for the entire thing in itself.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Because in animation, they tend to. It's weird because sometimes they reference death in this film, killed and stuff. They say that word, but then there's also like it's not kind of related to what you're saying. But like in the Spider-Man animated series, they would say, "I will destroy you, Spider-Man," or they won't say, "I'll kill you. I'll fucking kill you." They say, "I'm gonna destroy you." But you're right. They don't invoke deities or God, or they don't reference like murder or kill. But in this movie, they do. Which is really cool, which makes it stand out, which makes it a little more mature, and which I imagine is why Disney was so concerned with this. Why they were like, I don't know, I think we made a mistake. But now in hindsight, it's like it's nothing. It's like now it's like of course.
Because the last time they went really dark was The Black Cauldron back in the 80s, and that was such a flop. And like I think I could see where Disney, especially Michael Eisner, who is somebody who is very much let's play this safe. And this is not safe. This is not a safe film at all, and it worked.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I guess are we still? It's interesting because I feel like Disney like TV animated shows, they are pushing the envelope more and more. Where like Gravity Falls, it had so much innuendo in that show. and referencing like killing people and things and like people being dismembered. And I was like, this is interesting. Or like the Owl House, stuff like that. Where I think, so they can get away with stuff like those animators can get away with it. Well, it's TV, so that's fine.
Yeah.
But then with movies, they're like, well, we got to be it has to be for the mainstream, be as appealing as possible. So yeah, when a movie like this, it's a nice little anomaly. I like these little anomalies that always pop up every once in a while. When they're a Disney film.
And that's what terrifies me if they do decide to go live action. I remember hearing about that a long time ago. And of all the things, I've never made this as a comment before, but I think Nightmare Before Christmas, if they were to do anything with it, is just turn it into a Broadway play. Like, I think this would work much better in the theater versus making this live action. If they can go too far and go Lion King with it, where you lose a lot of the emotion out of it, or they're gonna I do agree there are definitely some issues with it too, and there's been some Tim Burton has gotten some blowback in recent years after some comments that he made about his casting choices, which are really, really inappropriate. Yeah. Did you hear about that?
No, bring it up though. If you have the information.
Yeah, he was asked because a lot of his casting is primarily Caucasian folks, and they asked, especially in your animated films, why don't you create, why don't you cast people of color and have some more diversity? And he just says, like, none of my roles are really intended for people of diversity. Like, they're kind of written for white people. It's like, really? Like, that's a really shit thing to say. Like, he just kind of brushes off like, yeah, they're not. It's not meant. My roles aren't meant for them. And he got quite a bit of blowback for that one, which hurt pretty bad.
Huh.
And then
like Oogie Boogie, I mean, he has that's a black man's voice though.
It is, and that kind of came into the idea though for his own kind of like racial undertones. Like, you have your only black character who's into playing dice. He's got jazz. It's the term Oogie Boogie is like it kind of like, oh God, is like Tim Burton's secret. Like, I don't like it just made it raised a lot of questions about Tim Burton's integrity as a creator at that point. Which
maybe it's like an ignorance kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best case. Like, I don't think he really realized what he said, and if he did, shame on him. But I don't think he's actually apologized for it yet. But it was,
interesting.
God,
wow,
damn it.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah,
maybe it's more like a self-awareness. Then maybe it's like he's just not self-aware. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I think he's like Stephen King in that aspect. He's not quite as aware of how racist he sounds when he says things.
Yeah,
he's just ignorant to it. Interesting. Wow.
That too. They're both ignorant, but.
I guess maybe the Bone Daddy guy. Here you go, Bone Daddy. I guess that guy. He might be background character. Interesting. Wow. Oh, yeah. I'm looking up right now. I'm just in terms of like adaptations. I'm just possible sequel. So I'll just as you guys already brought up. In February 2019, I want to say this. It was reported by that a new Nightmare Before Christmas film was in the works of Disney concerning either a stop motion sequel, or live action remake. In October 2019, Chris Sarandon expressed interest in reprising the role as Jack Skellington if a sequel of the film. So I hope that happens. I think we're all kind of on the same page. The film's kind of like, if this is a one and done, that's fine. But if they had to do something else with this material for a film, I think a sequel makes the most sense. And to your guys' point before, I just want to reiterate, on February 2nd, 2021, was announced at Disney Publishing that a sequel was given to the 1993 film in the form of a young adult novel written by Shema Earnshaw. Features Sally as the main character. Look at that. As be told through her point of view of events taking place after the film. Interesting. The Pumpkin Queen, which is reference to, obviously being Jack's wife or paramour, if you will. So that's interesting. So I don't know. Maybe we'll return to the Nightmare Before Christmas discussion in the future if they do a sequel or whatever, a live action remake. We can always talk about that someday.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking at Tim Burton's filmography since Nightmare came out, and I really hope he has nothing to do with it because I did not realize really post. I kind of like Sweeney Todd.
I like Sweeney Todd too. I think that's his last good movie.
Yeah, I heard very good things about Big Eyes that he did with Christoph Waltz.
Okay, it's okay.
It's okay, yeah. But everything else is like, God, these are terrible films.
Yeah, it's been rough. It's funny because he's had these iconic movies. He didn't even direct this; he just produced this and story. Of course, he came up with the story and the concept. But yeah, when I think of like Tim Burton in general, I think like my favorite film of his is Ed Wood, which is probably the least Tim Burton-y movie imaginable. But it's about the schlock filmmaker Ed Wood, made stuff like Plan 9 from Outer Space and Glen or Glinda and stuff like that. Right. It's great. It's a great dramatized biopic, obviously with Bela Lugosi and things like that. Walter Matthau playing Bela Lugosi. And then after that, I'd probably say Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which is the film that really brought him to prominence for a lot of people. And then I guess Batman. Batman 89. After that, it's kind of like, it's like,
it gets weird. Yeah.
Yeah,
like Edward
it gets
Scissorhands. There's an audience for
Edward
Edward
Scissorhands.
Scissorhands.
I like Edward Scissorhands. I forgot about that one. I always forget about Edward Scissorhands. That's a good movie.
Yeah, Batman Returns was solid too. Nightmare Before Christmas is, I think, probably his magnum opus and like his last like really peak. But yeah, Ed Wood, bizarre. Mars Attacks. There's an audience. I think it starts becoming like there's an audience for what he's trying to do for a little while.
There absolutely is. There's no question that the people really identify. He has his niche and he has his support. There's no, of course, his movies have made money. Like I don't like it. Alice in Wonderland made $1 billion.
Yeah, and it was terrible.
It was terrible.
Yeah, and Dark Shadows that nobody asked for.
Oh, I walked out of the theater. I was like, I'm done. I was like, I can't do it. I can't.
The only scene I liked from Dark Shadows was a scene where Johnny Depp and Ava Green are wrestling and fucking each other up and fighting. It was the only scene in the whole movie I liked.
You know what? I know what scene you're referencing. I think I saw it in the trailer. I don't think I even got to that scene. The only scene that amused me is when he killed all those hippies, where he's like, he reveals that I'm a vampire and now I have to kill you all. And then we cut to a far shot and you just hear screaming. It's like, I guess he's killing all of them. And after that, I just remember that. Oh God, I think it might be good maybe someday to talk about the careers of directors. Maybe that'll be fun for Discourse, like certain filmmakers or franchises even. I don't know. Again, you guys, it's. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think his live action adaptation of Dumbo is actually pretty decent because it's very hard. Like, how do you make that movie into a live action movie?
Yeah,
I think he did the best he could with what he could do with it. I think putting his own spin on it made it work.
Yeah, there's an argument I saw about the live action Disney films that I really agree with, where they're trying to address the commentary and the politics behind some of the films, and by doing so, they're just kind of creating more problems for it. And like they gave the YouTuber I saw gave a good example, like Beauty and the Beast creates a ton of new problems, but they're trying to overemphasize like Belle's strength and Belle's independence, but they went so obvious that none of the narrative around it really supports some of the stuff that they're trying to do for it.
It comes off try hard or inauthentic.
Yeah, and Aladdin tried to do the same with Princess Jasmine was already a very confident, very strong female protagonist, and then they are really just like putting a bunch of arrows and signs saying like, "Look, we're trying to be progressive," and it's like you already were doing really well. You stop it, and then they do Dumbo, which is like. And then they make kind of Dumbo more of like an ancillary character. And it's really more about like circuses and, animal rights.
The
like
abuse.
Like that's not the point of Dumbo. And even the way the film ends there too. I know this is a weird tangent, but like where, like Danny DeVito's circus now no longer uses animals. Like this was set in the 20s. Of course they did. We just stopped doing animals in the circus like 10 years ago. Like, no, you're trying to be like, I am all for woke culture and being more aware of the things you say and trying to be more self-conscious and stuff like that. But Disney's trying to do it so hard and
they're heavy-handed.
Yeah, they
want their trophy.
And their
How's Little Mermaid gonna work?
It's kind of hard to how do you make a Dumbo movie without addressing the issues with animal abuse? Like you
don't do it.
Can't.
Don't make the film.
True.
Yeah.
Like some of these films just don't need to make like a remake. Like I think they serve a product at the time. They are like Dumbo itself is timeless and weird as fuck. And they took out Dumbo getting drunk because they don't want to show a child drinking alcohol because they're now starting to talk down to us too.
Yeah,
and that's I think one of the, as much as I still really love Disney, I just can't. I really just I'm just getting so disappointed with some of the live action films they've been doing, and like they're not respecting their audience as much as they used to.
Well, they treat their audience like they're idiots.
Trying to cover up their sins is what it is.
They're also trying to use it to make money, but also like it just they're misunderstanding the whole point of, I don't know what people want to call it anymore because woke has turned into a joke word now, but it's just a matter of being progressive and being a decent human being. Stories are concerned. In order for it to be interesting, there needs to be conflict. There need to be problematic characters. And if it's set in a certain time period, just showcase the story as it would have been and just make the audience understand that certain. And if you have to bash them over the head with it, that's bad writing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Like there's a reason why, like kind of even like when you look at things like the Looney Tunes from way back in the day, but before I was born, where you saw them like smoking and drinking and shooting guns, and like it was fine. But then when you remake them now, granted, modern sensibilities, you probably shouldn't show them smoking or drinking anymore. But it's just the modern sensibility of it is kind of changed a little bit. It still works, I think, to a certain extent, but yeah, like there's definitely like we've taken a softer approach, I think, to a lot of animation, a lot of stuff geared towards kids. Sometimes good, but then sometimes we get lucky. We get like Mitchell and the Machines too, which is my movie of the year. Like I love that film to death.
It's so goddamn good. And and I think that movie handles the everything that we're talking about.
Yeah, it handles it in a very mature way. So they're still bound. I think the edge is still there, but I think some of the larger companies are now playing it way too safe. Yeah. Like no one asked for Space Jam 2. Nobody asked for that bullshit.
No. Well, I think part of the issue is like they know that they're going to make money regardless of if it's a good movie, because they know there's a baked-in fan base.
Yeah,
like you do any of the live action Disney movie, you're going to make a set amount of money just from the name alone.
Right, that's true too, and that's the part where it just like I think as companies have gotten bigger, and it does like the production costs behind making a film now have gotten so astronomically high. You have to play it safe now, because if you mess up, then you're going to get a John Carter, and like Disney lost a ton of money off that one, or a Lone Ranger where they went super weird and super horrible, and it cost them a ton of money for it too. And by that point, that was also like they're really banking on Johnny Depp at that point, which by that point was a huge mistake.
Mm-hmm. It's what happens is with a lot of these big companies, and Disney is they've had this problem in recent years where we need to make a film for everyone, but the fact that you do that, then you would never really make a movie for no one, because then it's just not appealing any capacity because it's so bland.
Thanks, the industry's changing because of streaming. There's no video rentals anymore. Like rentals are like a small fraction of the sales now.
Sure.
Go back to 10, 15 years ago. That's where they made a lot of their money. Like what was it? Matt Damon was on Hot Ones not too long ago, where he talked about how he can't make any of these mid-tier movies anymore because no studio doesn't want to do anymore, because they're not going to get the back end of their video rentals. Because back when video stores were a thing, the studios were pretty much guaranteed they were going to make money off people buying it, or a bunch of video store chains like Blockbuster buying up a bunch of copies to rent. So they were guaranteed to make money after release. But because of streaming, that doesn't exist anymore.
Yep.
So a lot of these studios, they want to get their tentpole movies now because they know they'll make a bunch of money off of it. So they're not willing to take risks. They're not willing to invest in the smaller directors or movies as much anymore. So that's why that's why it's like a lot of these movies now are kind of made by committee. I mean, that's what happened with Star Wars.
Yeah, very homogenous now. Yeah, and that would be something if we did want to do like a franchise discussion. I would love to do is like just sort of like the weird evolution of Star Wars films of. Like even like right now too, where we just finished the one film that I've ever walked out of a theater genuinely and not in no way, shape, form, exaggeration mad about, Rise of Skywalker. But then we also got Rogue One, which is my favorite Star Wars film too. So it's a weird kind of just franchise as where it stands right now too. But yeah, I being at Disneyland yesterday too and walking around, there's something I did kind of notice that, like what you're just kind of referencing, where they're trying to do something for everybody now. Like I was in one of the shops because it was like 40 degrees and I was freezing, waiting for my friends to come up, and I was just kind of walking around and I'm seeing like how they are approaching everybody now. Like I would see a Disney shirt that is like very clear cut, red, white, and blue, America, MAGA, like something for them, and then like maybe like 2 sections down you see a Disney shirt in rainbow pride colors there too. And so I think that's something that's kind of indicative of Disney's whole business now. Like it's not really about appeasing everybody. It's about not pissing everybody off.
That's what it is. And that's the problem that I've had is that they're not earnest about anything.
Yeah. Like
and that's when everything I'm sorry, I just want to say that's why everything comes off inauthentic.
Yeah. Like I do appreciate they are doing more stuff to have more diversity in there too, and they are trying to have more inclusion and things like that, which I think is fantastic. But I think a really good example for this would be, again, kind of going back to Beauty and the Beast, where they had Josh Gad's character be the first openly gay character, but it was done in such a inauthentic and kind of just sort of stereotypical way.
There it is in the background. There, he made a reference that he bit him a lot. What?
Yeah, LeFou, and which translates to the fool, is their first openly gay character. Which, like, God, well, that's terrible, asshole. But then you go to Mitchell and the Machines, where it's done in such a much more subtle but more earnest and honest way.
Yes.
I forget the main character's name when they say, like, "Are you gonna bring your girlfriend
Katie.
home this year?" Hey, yeah, like, is she gonna bring her girlfriend home? That was such a natural thing, and it was just like well done. Like Power Rangers did a better representation, with the Yellow Ranger being like technically the first open LGBTQ superhero, at least in a Power Rangers universe.
Sure.
Like they did it more naturally than Disney did. And because again, Disney's just, they don't want to offend. And if they do want to go woke, they're going to go real, they're going to get right to the line, dip their toe and then walk back out and just go back to generic and just go all in or don't do it.
There's a running joke of Disney because every year they say introducing our first gay character, because they did that again this year, wasn't it, for Cruella? I was like, wait a minute, I thought, what about LeFou? And they forgot about LeFou. So I was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's no. This is a conversation worth having. That is even when we go into even more depth. Yeah. Certainly in the future, I think. Yeah, and that's a good, might be good. Look at that. People who are currently listening to this, we might be evolving Discourse to talk about maybe these kinds of topics. Maybe not just about a film or a cartoon series, but also other aspects of these, like the behind the scenes type of thing, or the structure of these movies, or a franchise itself, or how the industry might be changing, or the industries might be changing. So I think it'll be worth having in the future. But I'm going to call it here. I hope everyone had a good time talking, both during our Spider-Man No Way Home discussion, and which I'll put up separately, and of course our Nightmare Before Christmas Discourse discussion. But I'm gonna bid all of you guys adieu. I want to go ahead and thank Deadpool, Emily, Austin, Kazfay, M. Xavier, Newsy, Ducky, and Vanny. And I know we also had Thunder Lee here briefly and Person Man's here briefly, but I want to thank them as well. But guys, we'll see you next time on Discourse. Bye. Bye. Yay.
3 was bad.
Yeah, it is. It's bad. It's so bad.
It was bad. I was trying to say that earlier.
We gotta do a Discourse on that movie. Whew, what a film.